Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing my build of the Estes BOSS. And it is time, hopefully, knock on wood, to finish the construction phase of this particular build. So what do we have left? Well, we have some minor attachment basically to do. We need to put the motor mount in, we need to attach the big disc, and somewhere around here is the launch lug. We need to attach that too. That seems to have wandered off. No, there it is. Alright, so everything is ready to go. I think I'm going to install the motor mount first, even though the instructions actually say I should do that last. Not entirely sure why. I don't know, it just feels like a good thing to do first. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to break out my wood glue. I'm going to move these other pieces out of the way so nothing dumb or bad happens. Alright. So the motor mount's just going to go in, and it doesn't truly matter all that much, but the hook is supposed to be lined up with the, yeah, like so. I believe it's supposed to be lined up. It's supposed to be on the other side, but it's supposed to be in line with the fin. I can't really imagine that making the slightest bit of difference. But it is good to just test fit everything first. Sometimes you do need to sand it, and we should end up having it should be like this. So the green part should just be flush with the end. So the motor mount is going to stick out the back just a little bit. Alright, so let's get to the gluing then. We need 2 layers of glue here. So I'm going to make myself a little puddle here, and then I'm going to use my dowel to put the glue in. Now, the instructions say to put it in 2.5 inches. How deep is that? Well, it's the majority of the length of the fin, so that would be a good ballpark. So I'm just taking some glue here, and I'm brushing it on the inside. There probably wasn't enough glue. It appears, yeah, it was not enough. But, you know what, there's always more. That should be enough. A little more. That should be, it's probably good enough, but let's put a little bit more down there anyway. Okay. Alright, now the other part I'm just going to put right on the edge. Now, I have seen some people suggest that you really ought to put the motor mount halfway in so that this part right here is actually going to end up on the back part of the motor mount. So when I push this in, most of the glue is going to get pushed by this front part. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And they claim that if you put the glue in the way I've done, then you're not going to really have much holding the back in place. And while I suspect there's probably some truth to that, I don't really concern myself with that for 2 reasons. One is this is a low power motor. You know, I'm going to be putting at worst a C6 in this. It's not going to be a lot of thrust. Whatever glue is holding the front end ought to be more than enough. As for, if this were a more energetic kit, then maybe that would be a problem. But for this purpose, I'm not going to worry about it. The other thing too is, now, I'm a little bit too far. The other thing to consider is that you can put like a sealing fillet around the outside here, and that would pretty much make up for whatever lack of glue you happen to have here. So why don't we just do that? Now, a lot of this is not going to go on the body tube. It's kind of reinforcing whatever fillets I already put on the motor mount. But some of it's going to end up smeared various other places as well. So it's going to reinforce things. Again, I'm not terribly concerned about this. If this were a much more sophisticated build, then yeah, maybe I would. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. Alright, so that's plenty, one would hope. Alright, so the motor mount's in. Let's take care of, let's do the big disc fin next. Alright, so that's going to go on like so. There's only one right way to do it, right? It's only going to fit. Be careful with glue fingers. We don't want to get any glue on this paper here. Anyway, it's only going to fit one way, right? Because this is bigger than this, so it can only fit the way it's supposed to go, which is good design. So it's going to go like that. Just a good idea to test fit it anyway to make sure you know what you're doing. This is essentially a fin, right? So I'm going to use my typical fin construction technique and putting 2 layers of glue on. Now this is kind of jigsawed together, so it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to get all the glue into all the little nooks and crannies. Certainly not with just the glue bottle, so all the more reason to use a dowel to spread things out. Alright, we'll let that sit for 30 seconds or so. A little bit of extra glue there. Let's clean that up. Alright. Well, I don't know where that came from, but whatever. Free-floating glue tends to happen in my construction zone, I guess. Alright, that's probably good enough. I'm going to go light on the remaining glue. I put a little extra in that divot because it didn't feel like I got very much in there the first time. Oops. Again, spread things out. Make sure it's evenly distributed. Okay. I also want to make sure it's not running down the sides because it did seem like it was going to do that. Alright, again, make sure your finger doesn't have any glue on it because you don't want to actually accidentally get any on the cardstock. That would be bad. And then let's just seat it. There we go. And I'm just going to hold it for a good 30 seconds. There's a lot of surface area here, so hopefully this bonds pretty nicely. And because it's jigsawed together, we shouldn't have to worry too much about getting this misaligned. It should, fingers crossed again, it should line up pretty nicely as long as we're pushing it down flat and everything is sealed up nicely. While I'm doing that, it is worth pointing out too that I already put fillets on virtually everything, every seam. So between the fin and the tube and between the pylon and the motor mounts, I reinforced all of those. So this should be pretty well set when it comes to fillets, except for the remaining 2 things that I'm doing right now. So the big disc fin, that's going to need a fillet after everything's nice and set, and the launch lug is as well, which of course I haven't put on yet. So there we go. Okay, that's probably enough time for the glue to have set. Let's just take a peek here. Oh, it is a little crooked. How about that? Wouldn't have guessed, but yeah, I'm just gonna look down the barrel of it to see if it is making a nice T or not. It wasn't at all when I first looked. It looks better now. I don't think it's quite perfect, but it's better. And I'm going to look the other direction as well just to make sure. It's nice to have multiple vantage points. It should be. I mean, the big fin down here and the little pylon that I put in, they already are pretty well lined up. At least I checked that earlier, so you can use that. It should look like a nice big T. Alright, I'm reasonably pleased with that. So, how to keep this stable? Well, probably, I don't know. It's fundamentally unstable because of the way the thing is shaped. So, for the time being, I'm just going to try to prop it. Because I want the circular part, boy, I don't know. I want the circular part to be parallel with the ground, if I can help it. Or if I can get it to be that way. That might actually be a big ask. Well, I guess one option is I could kind of clamp it like this. There we go. In between 2 heavy objects. Alright, so that's great. Last thing that needs to be done, yeah, I'll actually move this a little bit. Go this way. Okay. The last thing that needs to be done is this launch lug with its little standoff needs to be attached. Now, I already measured. It needs to be 3.5 inches, or it's supposed to be 3.5 inches from the front end of the tube, and it definitely should not be right here because that'd be in line with the the fin, right? So it should be, the instructions say it should be like in between these two. Honestly, I don't really love that, but that's just how it's going to have to be, I guess. Because if it's on the line, it's clearly with the fin, that would be a problem. And there are other things that are going to go on these lines as well, farther up here. And I don't really know how far they're going to stick out. So that could be a problem. So we'll just follow the instructions as best we can. Alright, I don't typically do 2 layers of glue when I do launch lugs, but I am this time because it's not just the launch lug. It is a piece of wood that goes with it. So we'll do usual business. Give it about 30 seconds. This actually I can get out of the way. This scrap of cardboard I cut out ages ago, and I've just been slowly adding glue to it over the years, so it's far more glue than it is cardboard at this point, one would think. But it's still, it's a decent way of getting some glue without making a mess on anything you actually care about. Alright. Alright, now this, we need to get it in the right place, although truthfully, like the front or back probably isn't that important. I'm much more interested in centering it, which, you know, again, it's not on a line, so that's not going to be the easiest task. So I'm going to just put it where I think it goes. I'm going to hold it for maybe about 15 seconds and then take a peek at it. I don't want this to set up as much as I would usually set things up, because I have no idea if this is aligned or not. Like, no clue whatsoever, because I didn't really have a good vantage point, reference point to check against. So that's probably enough. I'm going to, there's a little bit of excess glue, I'm going to smear that out on both sides apparently. And then let's take a peek. Now, I want to make sure that it isn't in line with the pylon here, which it's not, that's not a problem. And then I want to make sure that it is straight, right? As straight as I can get it. That is going to be hard to tell by just peering down, so what I can do is I can check to make sure that it is essentially the same distance from the line that I was using as a reference point, so this one right here. So the same distance here and here. And, I mean, I could measure it if I really, really wanted to. It's very small. It's like a 32nd of an inch, but it does appear to be pretty accurate that way. And again, the spot check that I'm doing, it does look, you know, pretty straight as far as I can tell. Alright, that should pretty much take care of the construction part for this anyway. I probably should have led with that. This isn't the whole thing. There's like a top stage to it as well. So this needs to dry. I will put fillets on the launch lug assembly and on the big central fin before the next video. And the other thing I need to do before the next video is I need to cut out this template right here, and I need to make a couple of lines on the upper body tube. So that is coming up next. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.